I mean, I think that a rich life is one that feels full, whatever that is to you. I think that you can feel rich without the money, right? If you've got a healthy family and you've got a roof over your head, then that's pretty rich. Further, you can expand that, and maybe you set your sights on something that's a little bit larger scale, and that needs to be a family conversation and how you're going to approach that. But I don't know. I wouldn't say that you have to have a lot of money to feel like you have a rich and blessed life. But I do think that.
Welcome, millionaires and future millionaires. You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, a show where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their portfolio allocation. Now to your host, Jace Mattinson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. This is episode number 409.
This is the podcast where we dive deep into the inspiring stories of self-made millionaires from all walks of life. We are your hosts, Jace and Stacy, and each week we uncover the strategies, setbacks, and turning points that led these individuals to financial freedom. Whether you're just starting out or looking to level up your wealth building journey, join us as we share the secrets and wisdom from those who have built their fortunes from the ground up. Get ready to learn, be inspired, and take actionable steps towards your own success.
Happy Mother's Day. You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with my dad, Jace Madison, and my mom, Stacy Madison.
Special edition for Mother's Day. Grateful to have a few of my children participating. They've got a few money tips that we will hear here in a bit. But I thought, well, actually, before we get into the show here today, if you'd like to be on the show, send us an email, millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. We're always looking for new, great, entertaining guests willing to share their story. If you haven't heard your story, shoot us a note. Even if you have heard your story and got a little different spin on it, maybe in the 400 plus that we've had on the show, shoot us an email. We'd love to have you on the show. And I have had some requests lately too. I probably do a little reaching out, but to get some of our past guests on for an update, especially with all the turmoil with the markets and with tariffs and the tariff roller coaster, if you will, that we've been on, along with, for some people, the crypto roller coaster as well. So anyway, we'll see if we can get some previous and past guests back on to give us a little update, net worth update, allocation update. Now that we have so many of these over the last several years, we've started to see some kind of market turmoil, so to speak, the last little bit, and we'll make for some interesting discussions outside of just having crazy bull markets for a decade plus. But one of the biggest criticisms that we've got over the years is not having enough women on the show or talking to female millionaires. So I thought, what better and appropriate time to bring my wife on and do a little bit more deep dive with her and some of the money lessons that she learned growing up from her mother, and also some of the things that she's involved with in our household, and dig a little deeper into those because ironically enough, she has more education in our household than anybody. And with that is raising our kids, but has had a professional life and done a lot. And quite frankly, is just as responsible, if not more so, for where we are as a family. So with that, my first question, Stace, as you've grown up and become an adult, talk to us a little bit about the role of your mom, her role as your mom, your dad's wife, and what role she played in terms of the values, the career, the family life that you had growing up, especially as it relates to money.
That's a good question. I grew up in a really traditional household. My parents are a little bit older. So whereas you grew up with both of your parents working, I know your mom kind of, when you were younger, was doing home health so she could be around. And then once you were older, she went full-time work. My mom was always home. She got married very young. She got married at 19, and they had their first child at 20 when she was 21. And my oldest brother has cerebral palsy, and so he has special needs. She had 6 kids, which is incredible that she went on to have 5 more children after having such a high need child first. His life expectancy was 20 years old, and he just celebrated his 50th birthday last year. So my mom has never held a job, quote unquote, but she has been a caregiver her entire adult life. So in terms of family structure, my dad was a physician. He kind of financially, supported the family, but she was with him through medical school, residency, and all that before, making money and him having his own private practice in the hospital, which a lot of that has kind of gone by the wayside. But in terms of today, most physicians are employed by the hospital, but she really supported him through all of his endeavors. Anyway, but she did graduate from college. My dad said she had to graduate before she had any babies because she always wanted to be a mother. So she did graduate. She studied interior design, and she always maintained her license, even though she never worked professionally. And then interestingly, maybe 10 or so years ago, she went back and actually earned another degree in family history because she loves genealogy. And she has written multiple books. She's done family history for a number of families. And although she puts in some serious hours, she has never accepted pay. So my mom is a professional volunteer and professional caregiver, always just giving of herself, truly. So in terms of professionally, I think that, and I actually thought that I would be working more than I am right now. I didn't anticipate having twins. We got married. I was working as a clinical dietitian, and then when we moved to Austin, I started a private practice, and intended to maintain that while we were raising our kids. But I also didn't anticipate for your workload to be what it is, and that's okay. I'm happy to support that and cheer that on. But I felt like our family required me or someone to be home and be really present, especially while they're really young. So similar to my mom, I've maintained my credentials and stay relevant. I stay up on my research and my CEUs, and I do intend on reentering some kind of working outside of raising our kids. I also do help with some of our family ventures, but anyway, I do think it's really important and valuable to have maintained my credentials. Obviously, to my bachelor's degree in dietetics, my master's degree in nutrition. So it's not something that I thought I would not use. I wouldn't have invested so much time and energy into it if I thought I wouldn't use it. But it's important to me to always stay relevant, whether or not I'm contributing financially to the family.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I think is really unique, being a part of, your family for the last decade plus, is the fact that even though your mom has chosen to essentially not take the path, I guess, of a traditional work life outside of the home, she's still been very much involved in the things that, her degrees supported. And I feel like she's gained a lot of the skill sets and the ability to actually, talk in those languages, even though she maybe never worked at a traditional company or firm, especially on the interior design side. I mean, she's still heavily involved, as you say, on a volunteer basis, but that's just not something I feel like most people would normally do without having the passion that she does for it.
Oh, I mean, that's really understatement of the year. I've never seen her take a nap before. The woman never stops. I mean, she's up at 5 a.m. and doesn't stop till she falls asleep at, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night. She's constantly engaged in something. And you're right. She has done so much and she's so well versed. And she's used her degrees in many ways. like you said, she's heavily involved in volunteer work. She's been heavily involved in our church and many leadership callings within the church, and used her interior design from creche exhibits, which are for, nativities every December. She's helped plan so many events over the decades. In fact, she planned our wedding with me, and our wedding was in D Magazine. I think our photographer submitted us for our wedding, and when they called me for information about our wedding details, they asked who my wedding planner was, and I put my mom. I was like, Doris James, heck yeah. And and people reached out trying to hire her for wedding planning, and it was just funny because she does not plan weddings, but she's an incredible event planner. She absolutely could. She could monetize anything that she does. I mean, really, everything she touches, she turns to gold. And she is she's a perfectionist. She loves everything to be perfect. She wants to be the perfect host, and not out of pride so much as she's very gracious and gentle and kind, and I one of the kindest people I've ever met in my life. I always told everyone I dated, I said, I'll never be as hot as my sisters or as nice as my mother. So just so we're clear. But she uses her talents to the fullest measure, and is always learning. I remember at one point her church calling required her to be involved with Boy Scouts. This was several years ago. And she went on to get whatever the highest training that any Boy Scout or Boy Scout leader could achieve. And she just doesn't do anything halfway. She's all in on everything that she does. And she doesn't skimp on anything. Everything is everything that she's got every single time.
What would you say the most important, or maybe couple most important lessons that your mom taught you?
Oh gosh. I mean, how do you put 35 years into a few sentences? Okay. Here are a few. I'm going to use some quotes that she always said because they've been burned into my brain, which are, it costs no more to be kind. The second one would be, there's one thing you can always count on, your mother's love. And lastly, I think one of my mom's superpowers is she is completely engaged in whatever it is that she's doing. When she's with you, she's paying no attention to anything else, much to the demise of any phone call you try to give her. But she's so all in on whatever it is that she's doing in that moment that it captures all of her attention and all of her energy. And I think that in a society that is largely disengaged, conversation is disengaged. People are constantly on their phone, or they're half here, half there. They're late to this or that. They make a commitment and then waffle. She is consistent. And I think that's something, that consistency, that steadiness, and of course, always that kindness and graciousness and going the extra mile. I think that those are things that sit with me today.
Any financial lessons or quotes that you have gotten ingrained into your brain?
More than your allowance. So
what was that one?
So I've mentioned before on the podcast that in my mom's, oh yes, this is another one. It's not the Southern way. So she wasn't born in Texas, but she got here as fast as she could. And manners are very important to her. And I think that with that, and maybe this is that generation, but money was not to be talked about. And this is something that I'm trying to rewrite in our family, because I felt like it wasn't good for my financial literacy in terms of growing up. That's something that I had to learn later. Even though my dad was really successful, it wasn't something that we ever talked about in the home. So I remember asking my mom how much a car costs, and she would tell me, more than your allowance. And so we just didn't talk about money. growing up from a young age. And so then like you go to college and you're like, oh, wow, like I didn't know shampoo was this expensive, or I'm bringing my dry cleaning home because I don't want to pay for that. But that was something that my mom always said about money. So I would say money was not my mom's forte, but my mom has never been over budget. I will say that. I know that my mom has always stayed within the confines of whatever her allotted budget was to kind of run the family household, and she's never bounced that.
How is that even possible? All those years to stay under budget. That's pretty amazing. I don't know that most people could ever say that.
She's funny. I would say my mom spends the money where it matters. I still hate the toilet paper that she buys because it's the cheap stuff. Things like that. Like those, my mom has never really cared about I don't know. Both she and my dad, neither of them have really cared a lot for lots of shopping and kind of personal spending. It's more like we want to spend this money on the house, or we want to spend this money on a car, or things that bring a lot of utility. But just going shopping for fun or lots of excess is not in my mom's blood. She also was raised in a family with 12 kids, really 13 kids. My mom's mom was a twin, and her twin sister died in a car accident when she was, I think, 32, 31. And her husband had already passed away a couple years before that. And she was left with, so she left 4 children living. And so my grandma adopted those 4 kids. She was pregnant with my mom at the time, which was her 4th. She and her husband went on to have 7 kids, so plus the 4 that she raised, and then there was another half cousin that her mom raised. So my mom didn't grow up in a family with a lot of money, so it's not like my mom was used to kind of a lavish lifestyle. But I'd say that even when she and my dad had built a successful kind of financial backbone, it was never frivolous spending. It was spending the money where it mattered, helping other people tremendously, lots of giving, and and I will say she would rather spend money on like high utility items. She'd rather spend more money on something that was going to last than something that was you'd throw out in 6 months or was going to break in a week. And I think that's something that you and I kind of came to an agreement on when we first got married, when we had literally a cardboard box for a dining room table. But when we were trying to furnish our very first place, it was, hey, let's just wait. We'd rather wait to buy things that are going to last than things that are going to be thrown out. And so, yeah, that's another thing I'd say she taught me.
One question I got to ask, just because I know the answer. Did the budget ever go up with inflation?
No. The story that I've been told is that my dad asked my mom, I don't know how many decades ago, what it cost to run the household. And she gave him a number, and that number has, and that budget has never changed in all these decades. So didn't go up with inflation.
So being under budget or on budget every month is is really unbelievable / remarkable, because it wasn't like it was increasing by a few $100s every year or so.
Right.
Wow. All right, let's switch gears a little bit, because we had the kids are here. What a special episode to bring on Tessa to talk to us a little bit about Mother's Day. What are your favorite things about Mom?
So my favorite things about Mom. Wait, do I read on my paper?
Yeah.
She tries her best. She takes care of us, and I'm just gonna add one more. She tries her best, and she orders groceries for us. And when we want to get her something, she lets us ask you for permission sometimes. And sometimes she gets mad, but she loves us. But just because she's mad doesn't mean she loves us less. She loves us. When she gets mad, I think she loves us more.
Yeah. What's your favorite money lesson that mom's taught you?
She hasn't taught me any money lessons. I learned them all from school today. So I actually can't tell anything because she didn't teach me how to learn money at all. Because I don't do homeschool.
What did you learn about money?
So my teacher, Miss Hollis, in first grade, she took out her real money. My teacher, Miss Hollis, took out her real money and she passed it down the rows.
Yeah, and what did you learn? What did you learn about a nickel that you were telling me on the way home from school?
Oh, so a nickel is on the front it has Thomas Jefferson, and on the back of the nickel is his second home called Monticello.
Oh, nice. Are there any money lessons that mom's taught you?
Nope.
What does mom always say about money?
You always have to work for it.
Yeah? Good.
And when you work for it, which we're doing today, we're gonna get money like $7,000.
Yeah.
It is gonna be $72,009, Mom. That Mom deserves.
Okay. Thank you.
So, any more questions?
Thank you, Tessa.
Okay. It is worth 5 cents.
Are there any questions or money lessons that you want to ask mom about?
700. What's 700 plus 983 2,6,300 money costs plus $5? Those are the things I want lessons from. So $393 plus 5.
Yeah, that's the money lesson you're trying to learn from mom?
Well, I'm trying to learn how to take care of. So what was the question?
What questions do you want to ask mom about money?
How much money do you have? And how much money do you have, mister?
All right, we'll talk about that later. Good one. CJ, what's a money lesson that mom's taught you?
You have to save your money.
You have to save your money? Yeah, that's a good one. Are you saving your money? Yeah.
I have $2,000.
You have $10 that you're trying to make $2,000 with? Okay. All
and
right.
my other money too.
And your other money too?
With probably make like $40,000.
Yeah. That's what you're thinking about? What question would you like to ask mom about money? Okay. Any other things?
My dad always says money makes money.
Oh, yep. Okay.
The end.
CJ, what was that?
My mom always likes to one reason I love about her is that she takes care of us.
All right, good.
My name's CJ, by the way. And Pickles.
Okay. What's your favorite money lesson that mom teaches you?
I always do swimming lessons.
Yeah? Swimming lessons?
Mm-hmm.
What about your money lessons?
I like to go to my friend's house. I love his house.
Yeah? What money lessons does mommy teach you?
She teaches me a lot of stuff at hot springs.
Yeah? Okay. Are there any questions about money you want to ask mom?
Yes.
What?
It's about all the sharks eat us, and we can't go home anymore. And that makes sense. We do.
Yeah.
And that makes all the sins we make, and we get out, and then we get all the way out of the shark, and we get back home in our car.
Okay.
And we drive home.
Okay.
And I have one more.
All right, one more.
All kids are kept always do advice.
Yeah.
And one more.
Okay,
that
one more.
Funny. That is a good one. And me another one.
All right, what is it?
And is we went to the pool yesterday.
Okay.
And yesterday, Mama always choose a character with these, and we always go to the pool next time tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that money lesson. Is that your favorite thing about mom too?
Yes. I see you later. Bye-bye. How about one more? Of Keta, but I can be all my cheer a car. I love everybody. And I want. And everybody means I like school too. And everybody okay.
See you next time.
I'll see you next time.
You know what's been a game changer for how I watch basketball lately? Prize Picks. I've been making daily fantasy lineups every night during the playoffs, and it's wild how much more fun it makes the games. It takes less than 30 seconds to create a lineup. I just pick a couple of players, decide whether they'll do more or less than the projected stats, and that's it. This week I've got Luka Doncic for more than 28 points and Tatum for more than 8 rebounds. We'll see if they come through for me. The Taco Tuesday discounts are a cheat code. Last week they dropped Jokic's projection by 20%. And now every lineup you make enters the Takes Two ticket sweepstakes, where you can end up sitting on the actual basketball championship game. Yeah, I'm in. They've also added the chance to win up to 2,000 times your cash. And if your lineup isn't perfect, Flex Play still lets you double your money. It's the most fun I've had watching the playoffs in years. Download the app and use code Millionaire to get $50 instantly after you play for your first $5 lineup. That's code Millionaire to get $50 instantly after you play for your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. And thanks again to Prize Picks for supporting today's episode.
What lessons do you hope to instill in them from a legacy standpoint?
I hope to instill hard work. I hope to instill education, whether that's professional or trade skills. And I hope to instill financial literacy. And I would say that last one is something that I didn't really grow up with a big understanding of. I remember my dad traded stocks for a while, and I remember sitting on his lap, and he had like 4 computer monitors in front of him, and he was trying to teach me about stocks. And he's like, if you want to try it out, I'll give you, I don't remember what he said, maybe $1,000 or something. And I didn't really know what to do with that. I was like, I mean, sure, I don't know. We never really pursued it, but I think that was kind of the extent of a financial conversation I may have ever had with him. And then, like I said, my mom just felt like it wasn't the Southern way to discuss finances. But I think it's important. I think it's highly valuable. It's necessary. And so we do talk about money in our house, and I think that it's important, and they need to learn that.
What does being rich mean to you?
Oh gosh, that word is not the Southern way. I don't like that word. I don't know. It feels like a snooty word. So I'm just going to I'm going to use the word successful, or maybe a rich. Maybe I'm going to maybe spin this a different way. I mean, I think that a rich life is one that feels full. Whatever that is to you. I think that you can feel rich without the money, right? If you've got a healthy family and you've got a roof over your head, then that's pretty rich. Further, you can expand that, and maybe you set your sights on something that's a little bit larger scale, and that needs to be a family conversation and how you're going to approach that. But I don't know. I wouldn't say that you have to have a lot of money to feel like you have a rich and blessed life. But I do think that a financially successful family is feasible, and there are a lot of trade-offs. There's a lot of sacrifice in order to achieve that. But and money's definitely not everything, but money can help life feel more comfortable. It can help with experiences, and it can also help other people. I mean, when you think of the blessing that you can also bring to others' lives when you have more money, you start a business and you employ 10 or 15 people there or more. I mean, that's something that goes beyond just your own family, but you're really helping other families as well.
All right, let's go back in the memory bank a little bit. What was your reaction when we first got married and I wanted to talk finances?
You want to talk finances before we got married? I think that we were engaged, and it was one night you bust out your laptop and you said, how much money, oh gosh, how did you phrase it? I just thought of this the other day too. I think it was something like, how much money do we need to have? How much money do we need to have for us to retire? or how much money do you think that we need to make to live the life you want to live? It was something along those lines. And I was like a deer in headlights. I mean, I had worked for a year out of college and then went back for my dietetic internship, which is a 10-month unpaid internship. So I was living off my savings from the previous year. Because when I graduated college, after I graduated college and put down my deposit for my apartment in Huntington Beach, I had $80 to my name before I started my first job. And so, I made money that year. I like saved everything because I knew I was moving to this unpaid internship. And so I'm living off my savings this year as we're engaged. And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm just trying to survive this year right now. But you just went line by line. You're like, what kind of car do you think you want to drive? What kind of house? How expensive do you think the house is that you want to live in? You're just going like rattling off and it was, I think you were like, just say the dream. Like, what's the dream? And I was like, I have no idea. Like how much a real house costs. Now we're looking on Zillow. Like, I don't know. Things have changed too. When we moved to Austin, I remember we thought that a house that was 600 to 800 grand was like the dream. And this is before prices went crazy. The same homes are worth like $1.5 to $2 million now. But, so things changed. But I don't know. You made me get really granular and, financially. I remember that first year when I was saving, I was interested in investing and I had no idea what to do. Who did I talk to? I talked to somebody who seemed like they maybe knew what they were doing with finances. And I was like, hey, like I have some extra money. What do you think I should do? And he was like, I think you should get a life insurance policy. I remember, I think the agent was his brother, which, red flag. And I think I had one or two conversations and decided that I think I talked to somebody else or talked to a few other people and they were like, here's the deal. You have some extra money, but like not really enough to invest. So just hold your horses. And which was wise counsel and unwise counsel because I could have done some things. But really glad I didn't I didn't bite on the life insurance. So yeah, it was a great conversation. I think that like you definitely led with, and I think even before that, we'd obviously had some kind of financial conversations because you need to know before you get married that you're going to be on the same page. And I had no idea we'd be where we are today. I honestly just hoped to like never have to worry about like food on the table and sending kids to college, but that was kind of all I really had set my sights on. I grew up, my dad was, really successful, but he also was gone a lot and I didn't like that. And so I'd hoped to have a husband that like would be home more. So I knew that trade-off was probably going to be like, you know what? We're just not going to set the financial sights. Like it doesn't need to be anything crazy. Like I'm just happy to be in a good spot. So, and obviously like that ended up changing. I didn't anticipate to be living the life that we are now. But anyway, I think from the jump, like it was important that we were on the same page financially. And I think you helped me get really granular and taught me a lot about how to build wealth.
What about in those first few months in the conversations we had when we both were just kind of trying to get things rolling? Like, what were your thoughts, reactions when we talked about budgeting?
It was hard and it was easy at the same time. Like it was just simple. Like the whole concept was like, don't spend money for like a decade. So I think we just really I especially tried to just not spend money where it didn't matter, where it wasn't needful. And then in the beginning, we would just spend it like on travel or whatnot. That was like something that was really highly valuable to us. But I do remember you telling me that we were out of money when I was floored. I was like, how are we out? Like, we're both working. Like, we both have, I'm so confused how we're out of money. And I didn't realize that, like, we weren't out of money. You just had cleared everything out of our, like checking account into savings and whatever investments, because we had hit whatever that budget was that you had set. But yeah, I mean, but I was in, like, I was here for it. So like that was hard. Coworkers like, hey, we're gonna go get our nails done together, and I'm like, oh, like I can't like go, and they're like, why? We all are making the same amount of money, and I'm like, oh, I just don't have the budget for it. But like it's fine. Like it was worth it. I think any sacrifice that we've made to be where we are now has been worth it, and feels minuscule.
Do you have any regrets from those years or early years, or?
I don't have any regrets, but I mean, it was hard. Like not spending money was not that challenging, but just like, we had some hard years when you were gone several nights a week, but that was just like the grind to make it work. And yeah, that was challenging, but we made it out on the other side.
Any words of advice for somebody who's just starting out?
Make a plan and stick to it. And it's okay to have a team captain. I would say you're our financial team captain. So it's okay if you feel like this is not natural to you. If one of you is like stronger at it, that's fine. You don't have to both be Michael Jordan. Like you can be a supporting cast member, and then you probably have strengths that the other person doesn't in other aspects. Like I take charge of the kids and the house, and how we're running our day-to-day lives, but you kind of steer that financial helm. But I'm here with you. I'm supportive. I look at the numbers with you, and I would say I'm not uninvolved, quote unquote, because I don't care, but because I trust the decisions that you're making, and we do discuss the important things and do review things. So yeah, and every couple is different. It doesn't have to look like that. You can both be all in to the same nitty gritty, and that's good too. However it works for you. It doesn't all have to be one size fits all.
All right, I know we're going a little out of order, but let's get some rapid fire questions, because this will be kind of fun. Here are some of your answers. What's the most expensive pair of shoes or pants you purchased?
Oh, this is interesting because, well, that I own or that I've purchased, because
I don't know, either or, however you want to phrase it, or however you want to answer it.
I have some very expensive pieces that I got before we got married. I think I have 2 pairs of Jimmy Choos, which were like, I think $700. And since we've been married, I think my most expensive pair of shoes, I just got them actually a few months ago for Black Friday. Got some Scova's boots that were like $375. But before that, since we've been married, I think my most expensive pair was like maybe $250. So I've gone down. We'll know we've made it when I buy a pair of Jimmy Choos, and I don't even know if I can bite on that anymore. That was me being young and knowing nothing about finances, and I don't know that I could spend $700 on a pair of shoes anymore. But I guess I also didn't, because they were a gift.
Okay. Yeah, there's a story on that one. I think we might have shared it on the first episode we got on together. But what about the most expensive meal out? I guess that was probably together.
Uchi, I would say, is probably, we went to Uchi a few months ago, and that probably cost us close to $400.
Yeah, that was a celebratory meal for sure. But yeah, that was probably the most expensive.
And before that, I think our most expensive meal out was when we were engaged for like Valentine's Day or something. It was a very mediocre meal, but it was a very expensive meal.
Oh yeah, I remember that was the one that we spent an hour over the dessert table because we felt so slighted on our meal.
Well, we weren't here for oysters, and we don't drink alcohol, so
yeah, that was a tough meal. I remember that one. Yeah, it's funny how you remember some of those ones. That yeah. What about the most expensive trip or excursion? I guess that's probably been together too.
I think all of these have been together. Oh gosh, what's been our most? Hawaii probably, or New Zealand, Australia.
Yeah, probably Australia. I don't know. One of those probably. We haven't flown first class yet, so it can get more expensive if you do that. But
probably our Australia New Zealand trip. or our family Hawaii trip. But Hawaii was longer. But
Yeah.
per day, probably Australia, New Zealand.
Yeah, probably.
And how much was that?
I think I don't know. I think we probably spent $5,000 or $6,000 on that. Probably. Hawaii was a little bit more.
Sorry, I do not know the nitty gritty on those. He booked everything.
I know. And in full disclosure, it's so hard nowadays to because I feel like the way you vacation now, at least we do, I'm booking hotels and flights so much earlier than when you actually go. And then the spending on the trip, you can see in that month. But if I went back, it was how much we spent on the flights that were booked 6 months ago, how much on the hotel that partially was paid for 4 months ago, how much was, this piece and that piece. And then when you get there, it's okay, well, it was just the food that we spent and then maybe a little bit of shopping if we do any of that. And that's hard to I don't know, which on one hand, it's a little easier to budget because you're kind of smooth out the cost of a trip over several months instead of doing it in the month that you actually go. But yeah, anyway. What about the most expensive car?
Beep, beep. That'd be the 12-passenger Ford Transit van, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Which was what, probably 70?
I think we paid $70,000 for that. Yeah, it was not cheap.
We had to buy it new because you can't find them used.
Yeah.
Our only brand new vehicle we've ever bought is an Amazon van. Yes.
Yeah, and before that, I think the most we had ever paid for a car was $30,000 used. So, and prior to those, at $30,000, which was for the family, I think the most we had paid prior to that was $15,000. So, yeah, our cars for a little while there, we'd never paid more than $15,000 in cash, and then bought the one for $30,000, and then went a little crazy, I guess you could call it, to buy a minivan or a Amazon van.
There's nothing mini about it.
Yeah, there's nothing mini.
She's full steam ahead.
What's the craziest thing that you've ever done to earn money?
Boxes. So my sister started a skincare business, and before her, big baby, the one that did really well, there was an iteration previous to that when I was in high school, and my first job was putting together boxes of product. I would glue the pink sashes around the boxes. I would pack the boxes with product. I would, package them. And then I also did the payroll. There were a couple other, I think there were 3 other gals who worked. And so I would do the payroll for that too. But yeah, putting together the boxes and managing payroll for our little tiny squad of skincare professionals.
Okay. What's the dumbest thing you ever wasted money on?
I mean, now that you brought up the shoes, probably the Jimmy Choos that I didn't buy myself, that I can't even wear anymore. But
we should sell them, maybe.
No, I'm gonna pass them on. They're an heirloom now. I know. I got nerve damage in my foot from one of my pregnancies. Wah, wah. Dumbest thing I've ever spent money on. Okay, the dumbest thing I've ever spent money on was this bike rack for the back of your truck as a gift for you for your mountain bikes that's been sitting in the garage in a box for 5 years.
Bam. All right. Which bike rack?
It's the one that's like a pad.
Oh, for my truck? Yeah.
Maybe you should sell that.
I don't know that we could sell that, but good comment. How did you make your first buck?
The sweatshop. Yep. The skincare sweatshop.
All right. What's your favorite thing to spend money on?
Hold on. Well, that's fine. I was thinking I did also this was not my first job, but my I cleaned the kitchen. Anyway, it's fine. Favorite thing to spend money on. Ooh, favorite thing to spend money on. That's a good question. Ooh, probably fitness. Like gear. I just bought a new running vest. I'm excited about that. Like workout clothes, or a race entry. Yeah, those are that. probably that. And then like, I love a good spa day. So I'm pretty experientially. I'm experience driven. So anything that kind of either makes an experience better or is a good experience, fun experience, something to plan for. Probably those things.
All right, last one. What's something that you spent way too much money on, but you don't regret?
Oh, that ring that we got after we had the twins.
The one for me or the one for you?
For me.
Oh,
in
okay.
Paris.
Yeah. That was like a 5-year anniversary or a
10-year anniversary.
10-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's like the most expensive thing we've ever bought, probably. I mean, like item. Yeah, there's a really beautiful ring that Jace surprised me with. I'd been looking at it, but it has like five rows of diamonds. Like they're small, but 5 rows of diamonds kind of represented like our 5 kids. So he surprised me with that last year when we went to Paris for the Paralympics, and kind of also celebrated our 10-year anniversary with it too. So completion of our family, but yeah, it was a really expensive.
It wasn't too crazy.
But yeah, I mean, but
Yeah.
it's not cheap.
More than a couple $1,000s for the wedding ring, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
But I would consider it an heirloom and something that I plan to pass on.
I don't feel, yeah, I guess if you want to throw it out there, but I don't feel like it was way too much money. I mean, we don't buy jewelry every day. It's like a once every 5 or 10-year thing.
Yeah, and I don't regret it.
Yeah, but not too much money on it. It was well spent and well loved and well used. Awesome. Well, happy Mother's Day. A little different special edition, Mother's Day edition episode. And honoring all the mothers, all the females, the women in our lives. I know there's probably several out there that, that we could all point to, motherly figures that have had an influence on us, whether it be in life or financially or all of the above. And I thought it would be good to just carve a little time out today and involve a little bit of the family, and also have Stacy share a little bit more detail about her story. I know sometimes 8 years, whatever, behind the scenes, and then I guess the last little bit here, a little bit behind the mic, but the listeners haven't got to know her as well as maybe me for the last 8 years.
I hope they don't know me as they shouldn't know me as well.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, like all the nights and weekends and hours that have been put into this, amongst a bunch of other ventures and things, like it definitely wouldn't happen without her. So anyway, that's Stacy. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Jace Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website, millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.